Imagine a world where national security hinges on speed, real speed. What used to take maybe a decade for critical defense capabilities. Well, now the pressure is on to deliver that in months, sometimes even weeks. It's quite a seismic shift. And when we talk about acquisition, we mean the whole journey, from figuring out the need, designing, developing, buying, and actually getting critical military tools out there. Today, we're really digging into how the U.S. Defense Department is trying to radically transform its approach to meet this, well, frankly, incredible demand.
Yeah, and the basis for our discussion today is pretty compelling stuff. We're drawing from direct testimony, specifically excerpts from a hearing called DOD Acquisition Reform for Speed and Scale.
Yeah.
This was before the House Armed Services Committee, just recently on July 23, 2025. And you'll hear insights directly from Michael P. Duffey. He's the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment. And this isn't just, shoveling papers or tweaking bureaucracy. It's much more fundamental. It's about retooling strategically to stay ahead of threats that are constantly evolving.
Exactly. And what I found really insightful is how they're trying to reframe acquisition itself. It's moving beyond just a buying process, right? It's being positioned as a critical strategic capability, moving from maybe being seen as just a cost center to hopefully a core competitive advantage. Duffey himself really hammered this home. He said the Defense Department is at a critical juncture. He stressed this need to deliver integrated capabilities to the warfighters, and his words were speed, scale, and operational relevance. So it's not just about getting something out the door fast.
And it has to be the right thing.
The right thing fast, and crucially, in large enough numbers to matter.
Right. And if you look at the bigger picture, the driving force behind all this is undoubtedly the shift in the geopolitical landscape. It's dramatic. Duffey was very clear, saying the current environment just doesn't allow for, quote, flexible timelines and risk avoidance.
He put it quite starkly, actually. He said, what once took a decade must now be delivered in months or weeks to stay ahead of the threat. That one line really captures the core challenge, doesn't it? It's the pressure pushing these reforms.
It really does.
Yeah.
But, okay, identifying the urgent need for speed is one thing. How does the DOD plan to, translate that urgency into actual concrete action? Duffey did seem to have some specifics on that front. He outlined some key priorities. First, rebuilding a more resilient defense industrial base, basically strengthening all those suppliers that form the foundation. Then there's using rapid and flexible contracting tools, things like multi-year contracts, especially he mentioned, for munitions. And a big one, obviously, is cutting through bureaucratic delays, reforming those, let's be honest, often outdated processes. That's always a hurdle in big organizations. And finally, maybe most importantly, empowering the acquisition workforce, giving them the ability and the confidence to operate with more agility.
Those all sound like major efforts: rebuilding the base, flexible contracts, cutting red tape, empowering people.
Yeah.
But how are they planning to, fuel the innovation and competition needed for this, especially if they want to move faster and maybe bring in newer players?
That's a key part of the strategy. Duffey talked about encouraging industry engagement much earlier in the process and really accelerating that path from identifying a need, a requirement, to actually awarding a contract. And crucially, he stated, the department intends to tap into a broader array of companies that explicitly includes startups and what they call non-traditional vendors.
So opening the doors wider, basically.
Exactly. The idea is to bring in fresh perspectives, different technologies, maybe shake things up a bit beyond the usual defense contractor pool.
Okay, so broadening the pool of companies. But it sounds like they're also using specific existing tools to shore up critical parts of the industrial base itself. What did he mention there?
Yes, they're actively using things like Title III of the Defense Production Act, DPA Title III, and also the Defense Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment Program, or DBES. These are aimed at strengthening very specific critical sectors. He highlighted microelectronics, which is huge, obviously, energetics, and critical minerals.
Energetics.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. When they say energetics, they mean things like propellants, explosives, pyrotechnics, basically materials that release energy. These are the components that provide the power, the thrust, the bang, really, that enable a lot of military capabilities.
So very fundamental stuff.
Got it. So microchips, critical minerals, and the stuff that makes things go boom or fly fast makes sense. But, all these strategies, the processes, the focus on industry, Duffey made it really clear that none of it works without the people involved. He said, and I thought this was powerful, this work is not possible without the people who carry it out.
Absolutely. And the scale he mentioned is just staggering. He called the acquisition workforce the connective tissue between strategy and execution. And that workforce, it's 167,000 people strong.
Yeah. And their role is incredibly complex. They're managing difficult trade-offs, directing, billions of taxpayer dollars. And ultimately, their job is to ensure our warfighters are, quote, never outmatched. So while we talk about tech and process empowering this huge group of people, giving them the agility and confidence, well, it's indispensable. You can't overstate its importance.
That really underscores the human element. It's not just flowcharts and contracts. And it's worth noting, too, that Duffey wasn't speaking in isolation, was he? This seemed like a unified message.
That's right. It felt very much like a cross-service effort. Also testifying were key people like William D. Bailey from the Air Force, Jason L. Potter from the Navy, Major General Stephen Purdy Jr., who handles space acquisition for the Air Force, and Jesse D. Tolleson Jr. from the Army. So seeing all those different service representatives there really highlights how widespread this push for reform is. It's across the board.
So wrapping this part up then, what we've explored in this deep dive is really the DoD's urgent, comprehensive push to speed up how it gets capabilities. It's all driven by this rapidly changing global situation where, again, that decade-long timeline just has to shrink down to months.
Exactly. And thinking about the wider impact, this shift, well, it's profound. It's going to ripple through how innovation happens, how national defense is structured, maybe even impact the broader economy. It really isn't just about doing things faster. It feels more like a fundamental change in how capabilities are thought about, developed, and ultimately delivered, a response to a much more dynamic world.
It certainly seems that way. Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener, to consider. Given the sheer scale of this whole undertaking and this intense desire to compress, a decade's worth of development into just months, what unforeseen challenges or perhaps unexpected opportunities might actually emerge from such rapid transformation? Something to mull over.